I'm joined now by Congressman Eric Swalwell. Congratulations, first and foremost, on your announcement that you will be running for governor of California.
Thanks, Brian. I'm in. I'm excited to do it. And first 4 days have just, it's been an overwhelming response as I've gotten across the state.
So let's talk about your race. There are already a few names that have thrown their hats into the rings. How would your campaign be different from those other candidates that we've already seen thus far? What is the centerpiece of your campaign?
I'm a fighter and a protector who is taking on this president in real time, right now, in the arena. And if you want to know how I will take him on as governor, you can just watch me day to day as I do it. And governor, you can just watch me day to day as I do it. And what I'm hearing from Californians is two things: that people are scared and prices are high. So I see it as the governor of California has two jobs. One, to keep the worst president ever out of our homes, out of our lives, and out of our streets. And two, to bring a new California that can take on the cost crisis in our state. Because we love to say it's the fourth largest country in the world, the fourth largest economy in the world, and California is the greatest country in the world. But that should mean something to someone when you say it, meaning they have a share in that, a stake in it, skin in the game, so to speak. And so I've taken on these fights as a planning commissioner, a city council member, a prosecutor, and certainly taking on Donald Trump for the last 10 or so years in Congress. And so I'm ready to bring the fight right here home to California to take on those issues.
What is the biggest failure of Democratic governance in California thus far that you would like to see rectified if you become governor?
Yeah, so I'm running to bring a new California, especially on cost crisis. To most young people, they think you should be able to take your first job, have your first kid, and buy your first home in the same decade. But right now, the average first-time home buyer is 40 years old. So I'm going to declare a cost crisis across the state, just as the governor has already done in the Palisades and Altadena, to expedite home building. And so we're going to do that actually across the state. And every agency in the state who is sitting on or reviewing an application for a new home, I'm going to give them 90 days to make a decision so that we have more certainty and just more homes on the market. Maxing out democracy. Democracy is under assault by this president. Any person who waits in line for 30 minutes, that's way too long. And we can't just be a little bit better than Georgia or Alabama. So I'm going to fine counties per person for every minute over 30 minutes. And also, I want us to be a state that really leans in to technology. And so where we can make it safe and secure, we will allow people to vote by phone, which, by the way, is already happening across the country. It's happening in a secure way with an audible backup trail. And of course, if you still want to vote in person or vote by mail, you can do that. But I want to expand the ways in which Californians can civically participate. And then small business growth. We have the highest unemployment right now in the country, and we have some of the slowest growth as far as new small businesses in the country. I'm going to give a 3-year tax holiday to any new small business. I want you to focus on getting your business plan together, getting not only revenue, but to profitability, hiring employees, creating business-to-business revenue for other businesses around you, and then that will bring in long-term revenue for the state. So there's a lot that I think we can do to take on the cost crisis in the state, and that's what a new California means to me.
So there has been some criticism leveled at the prospect of a vote by phone plan, and
Yeah.
and frankly, given the extent to which technology is fallible, hackable, whatever it may
Yeah.
be, is there some concern, or how could you
Yeah.
be confident that enacting a plan like that would mean secure elections moving forward?
Yeah. Only if we make it safe will we make it happen. And so what I want us to do is to put forward the most secure way to vote by phone. If we can't make it safe, we're not going to do it, but it's actually already happened. West Virginia, for example, they overseas military members vote by phone, even in federal elections in West Virginia. Salt Lake City has had its mayor elected by voting by phone, and there have not been security issues. But if there are, again, you can see into it, and you can see where any compromise has concern. I just happen to think if we want to be the party that is expanding access to democracy, we should put it in people's hands the same way we do for banking, healthcare records, taxes, everything else that we do by phone. I want to put democracy there too.
In terms of California's leadership in the country, we have the unique positioning where if we can dictate state laws because of the size of our economy, because of the size of our population, that de facto becomes the standard for the rest of the country. We use it in particular in fuel efficiency standards. So California imposes high fuel efficiency standards, and if a car manufacturer wants to sell cars in California, which of course they will, it's the biggest economy in the entire country, then you have to abide by our standards, and that becomes the default standard for the rest of the country. In what other ways can you use California's position, population, economy size to kind of shoehorn in good policy that will kind of, again, by virtue of our position, make that the de facto position for the rest of the country?
Yeah, and the rest of the country has benefited because California
Correct.
leads in that way. And so I also see opportunities, by the way, on AI. Look, I want us to be the AI capital of the world, but as a parent, I want to have the guardrails that protect our kids, from AI that allows cyberbullying on steroids, or that creates more privacy issues, or that is continuing to create trademark and copyright issues for creators like yourself. I want AI to be a technology that creates more jobs than it displaces, but that means California has to lead on it. That's one example. I also believe when it comes to food, California recently was able to ban 5 of the worst chemicals for our bodies, and I want to continue to look at what toxins are around us and what California can do, to make our environment and our food safer for Californians. But also, as I said, democracy, as I pointed out with the waiting in line problem. I mean, it's insane to me that anybody would have to wait in line for longer than 30 minutes. We also know Republicans weaponize that sometimes to suggest the line's too long and people maybe shouldn't go vote, or have even in instances, it's been reported to me that they will create the appearance of a long lines on college campuses so people think, oh, well, this is too long for me. So there's a lot where we can lead. But Brian, the next governor of California also has to be inventive with how we get resources, because the president has taken away cancer funding. He's taken away funding for our research universities. He's taken away port security funding. So I will create an ambassador program for a research fund in California, and I will dispatch the best public and private sector leaders we have in the state to Asia, to Europe, to the Gulf, to financial capitals all over the world to make the case that if you bet on California, Californians will pay lower costs, and the return on investment to those who bet on California will be great.
You had mentioned AI and making California the capital of AI. There is concern across the country as we see more candidates running against the prospect of having AI data centers in their towns or cities or wherever it may be because of the impact on local resources and also energy prices. And so how do you reconcile those two things?
Yeah, so we certainly have to meet the AI energy demands. And this is where I see an opportunity to expand, by the way, the clean, renewable energy options that we have, in California that were taken away by the Inflation Reduction Act. And if AI, companies want California to be the capital, they have to be invested in the power solution, which can't just be a solution for them, but it has to be lower energy costs for all Californians. That's the bet. That's the deal that I will make. I will bring those folks to the table, but we can dramatically expand, and there's ways to do this across the state, the solar that we take on and put on to the grid. Again, especially with the president taking away this funding, a California research fund for this life sciences and energy is going to be the only way that we can do that. I'll leverage my relationships, not just domestically, but overseeing the CIA. I had the opportunity to visit nearly 40 countries, meet with presidents, prime ministers, kings. I will leverage those relationships to have them make investments in Californians.
So one of the issues that impacts the city where I live, which is Los Angeles, is this issue of the entertainment industry basically being exported not just to the rest of the country, which we've seen over the last 10 years, but to the rest of the world now. Even Georgia, which took all of Marvel Studios out of California, now Georgia's lost that to the UK. And really, there is one thing that every single person working in entertainment is looking at, when they're choosing where to invest to make their film or television show, and that is what the tax credits are. And so, where do you stand on the tax credit that California currently offers, and what would you offer?
Yeah. California has to be the easiest place, not the hardest place, to film for TV, film, and content creators. Captain America should be filmed in America,
Yeah.
and it's not. So, just bottom line, or I would call it above the line approach here, is we have to go above the line on the credit. That's what I would do. I understand this uniquely as a TV and film producer, that there is a whole economy here that continues to shrink. And we're not talking about the first 10 names you see in the credits on a film. We're talking about the last 500, the people who do the work to make, to help get these TV and films made and distributed. And so if you do an above the line credit, that's the best way to make sure that it's always made in California.
And by the way, it's not just, the 500 names below the line. It's also local businesses, it's local hotels, it's florists, it's I mean, the whole industry is foundational upon whether there continues to be productions that are shot. I mean, when I moved to LA 15 years ago, you could not drive 5 minutes without seeing one of those yellow placards that basically say, give an arrow to point to wherever a production is shooting. They were everywhere. It's virtually vanished at this point. And
I think on set you have like Star Wagons, right? And you have the catering companies. These are whole economies of working class jobs that are being lost, not just out of state but overseas.
Correct. And so right now our the film and television tax credit is $750 million. The only state that has a higher film and tax credit is Georgia right now. Even Georgia's tax credit, as I mentioned before, isn't enough to keep the jobs in state. And so
my goal is $3 billion. My goal is $3 billion.
Okay.
Above the line, though. Above the line. So that the difference is that when you go above the line, you can start to realize the benefit immediately. As you start, whether you're in pre-production, principal photography, or post-production, you get the benefit more quickly, and especially for independent films, that's critical, for drawing investors and getting the film financed and made, which has to be the goal, for all these jobs to be created and ultimately, for the film to be successful. And again, these are not the first 10 credits that we're talking about. These are, the hardworking folks who are a part of this industry that are so critical to the California economy.
I'm going to argue against myself for a moment here and say that, what about the criticism that would come from this, which is this idea that for everybody else in the rest of the state that isn't Los Angeles and to some degree San Francisco, because I know that there's some small entertainment industry contingent up in San Francisco as well. But for the folks in the rest of the state who are going to see this and say, like, this is typical that the glossy entertainment industry would get all the attention, but what about the farmers? What about this industry? What about that industry? And so, which is standard anytime any industry is going to get a tax carve out, it comes at the expense of something else. And so, what do you say to the rest of the industry in the state of California in light of what frankly I hope will be the biggest tax credit that we have in the entire country?
Well, first, I'm a Bay Area, producer, and there's a lot of talent across the state, in this industry. It's not just in Los Angeles, and also I would allow content creators to be eligible for this, and we have seen, that it is horizontally distributed as far as content creators and where they're located in the state. But if overall, that credit means that there is more revenue coming back to the state, not just in Los Angeles, but back to the state, that we can provide lower cost health insurance and lower energy costs, then to me, that is a bet that's going to pay off big time. But
Great.
you have to bet on California production first for it to happen.
And final question here. What about the plan in terms of there are areas of California where insurance is no longer offered because of the risk of wildfires or the prevalence of wildfires. And so what is the plan to make California insurable in light of these natural disasters that are becoming more and more prevalent?
Yeah, so we need more competition. And so many insurers have left the state. And so I'm going to work to bring insurers back. And that is in part a regulatory fix because there's a 36-month penalty essentially. Once you leave, it takes a certain period of time to come back. We have to, I think, declare a crisis, waive that, get credible funded insurers back so that there is more competition. And then, look at, an overall, I think look at increasing reinsurance and umbrella plans that can cover homeowners, who are priced out. But this is going to be a big priority of mine. And frankly, making sure that you have qualified, credible, experienced individuals working on this, which I think has been a problem, in the past, especially as the disasters have only escalated.
For folks who are looking to help your campaign, where can they go?
Yeah, thank you. EricSwalwell.com, but at Eric Swalwell across all socials. But find me. I'm going to be across the state. I was in Orange County on Saturday. I love to do Ask Me Anything style town halls, no screened questions. That one was, at capacity. We had a wait list of about 500 people. So I'm going to continue to go across the state. I'll be in San Diego on December 2, December 14. I'll be in Fresno. So I'm going to get across the state, make my case for a new California.
Excellent. I'll put that link right here on the screen and also in the post description. If you're listening on the podcast, I'll put that in the show notes. Congressman, thanks so much for the time. Best luck on the campaign trail.
My pleasure.